right, welcome back, everybody. Good to have you with us. Border to border, coast to coast, across the fruited plain. Welcome to the Todd Starnes radio show. I want to go to the Patriot Mobile Newsmaker line. Say hello to Congressman Michael Cloud from Texas, a member of the House Freedom Caucus and the House Oversight Committee. Congressman, good to have you with us today.
Well, thank you. Good to be on with you.
So, Anthony Fauci's testimony yesterday, I have to tell you, I really appreciated how MTG conducted herself. I think that she said what everybody needed to be saying up on Capitol Hill yesterday.
Well, yeah, there's certainly a lot of sentiment that we need accountability and even that he needs to be in jail. A lot of people certainly think that, and we've got to continue to bring accountability to what's going on. It's frustrating to me. It's frustrating to the American people that we've seen him be all over the map when it came to recommendations, but always in favor of further lockdowns on the American people that were devastating to our liberties, that were devastating to people's livelihoods, and really to their lives in many of these cases. And we just continue to see a ducking of any sort of accountability, not even an apology.
So did he do anything criminal?
At a minimum basis, he's perjured himself, I believe, and then there's some statutes that we looked at that it's certainly possible. I think what he's done is completely immoral for sure, and we've got to continue to bring light to it and push back on what's being done, and ultimately we've got to stop funding these bad practices.
Seems to me, Congressman, and I've been a lifelong conservative. I think a lot of people are getting frustrated over the constant hearings, and yet really nothing ever comes of the hearings. You know what we're talking about here?
I totally, and I share that frustration. And this is, I feel like one of the voices up here that keeps saying we've got to stop sending them money to do bad things, because ultimately, I wish we had the handcuffs to put people on, to lock people up, put them in jail. What we can do is bring light to these things and investigate them, and we should be able to hand them over to a DOJ that is not corrupt. Unfortunately, ours is to continue the process of prosecuting these crimes. But what we definitely and clearly have the jurisdiction over, and what our founders understood, is Congress has control of the purse strings.
Yes.
But we have too many people who are willing to tweet out against policies that they're willing to vote for or support, strongly worded letters, but then vote to fund all the bad practices. And until we take control of the purse strings, that is our leverage. And until we're willing to do that, there's no incentive for them to change their behavior.
And Congressman, you have done that. You have introduced a plan to cut funding for Fani Willis and Alvin Bragg. So where does that legislation stand right now?
Well, we're looking to get into the bills right now. I'm on the Appropriations Committee, and so we'll be introducing amendments to the rider. So they don't necessarily need to be standalone bills, but we can defund. We can look at the grants that are going to those offices. We're looking at other ways to funnel any sort of money. We know that they colluded with our DOJ, and so we've got to look at it. Right now they obviously have too much money because they're getting past what is their due diligence of good government, and they're meddling in all these areas that are highly politicized. And that's the DOJ, but that's you can point to almost every single agency where they're the best way, the most kindest way you could say it is that they've outgrown their mandate. But in so many ways, it's just blatant politicized nefarious actions.
So you've got this legislation to defund these offices. How long could it take, or how quickly can this get to the full House for a vote?
Well, if we can get it into the probes bills, these riders, we can get the votes for it into the probes bills. We can see these grants and the money going to them defunded into the probes bills that will go to the floor. And then, of course, when it comes to there will, I'm sure, be some negotiations with the Senate, and this is where we've got to have leadership that holds the line on these things. We can't keep going down the omnibus road. We can't, what happened last time was we had good conservative appropriations bills, and they were strong fiscally, and they were strong in a policy standpoint. And the thinking was going into negotiations with the Senate was maybe we won't get everything we want from a dollars perspective, but we could possibly trade dollars for good policy at some sort of standpoint. But then there was an agreement on the dollars before there was any agreement on the policy. So basically, all the leverage to have any sort of win on the policy went out the window at the very first negotiating conversation. And so, this is where we've got to be stronger and realize that these people are out to destroy the country. I'm hoping after the events of this weekend and what we've seen happen with President Trump, that it'll steel the resolve of some of our colleagues up here to realize, these people are not to be trifled with. They are attacking at the very root of the foundations of our country, and we've got to have not only the same level of will, but even more so to realize that we're on the right side. We have the moral imperative to stand up and to push back on this.
Is it possible to do? I'm wondering here if this is, it's a great plan, a great idea you have, but you're telling me that ultimately it's going to be up to the Senate, and we may or may not have enough support among Republicans to hold the line.
Well, this is where elections matter, and we've got to continue to fight the battles and continue to push and do what we can. Chairman Jordan is also working at this through the Judiciary Committee from a little bit of a different angle. But for me, these have got to stop being messaging exercises. We've got to actually put our country on a good footing and see these things become policy. My family still lives in Texas, and the last thing I want to do is spend this much time away from my family for messaging fights. We're here to do what we can to save the country, and we've got to have people who are willing to do that up here, to do what it takes to take the tough votes, to message well. And the American people will be with us. They get the fact that we have a bloated government. Just during COVID, our government grew something like 30%. Just during COVID, and we were trying to get the argument back to, let's just get back to pre-COVID spending. Nobody thought we had a super streamlined, lean government before COVID. If we could just get back to pre-COVID spending, so we couldn't seem to get the votes to do that. So it's a fight for sure, but I'm not going to not fight because we can't see the results. A lot of times you have to go into the battle and do what you can and try to get the results you can.
Yeah, all right. Well,
but if you only fight the battles that you're going to win, those aren't really battles.
Yeah. All right, Congressman. Well, we got to leave it there. Good luck to you, and let's hope that the Republicans in the Senate will hold the line. Appreciate you coming on the show today.
Yes, sir. Thank you. God bless.
All right, Congressman Michael Cloud.